Okay, guess we can begin. Hello, everybody. Good day, good evening, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome. Sound good? Okay. Still. Yeah. Okay. Right. Hi. I wanted to start tonight with if you had any questions, so we could. I don't know how you can either speak up or chat if you have any questions. And we'll basically now we finished this first chapter, so maybe some doubts or something came up. And so if you had any questions, I'll give you a few minutes to think of that before we begin.
Lama, this is Valdo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. In the last week, we read a couple of paragraphs in which, or there was one paragraph in which we're saying that it would bring a lot of really bad karma, a lot of challenges for people who had bad thoughts or did bad deeds towards bodhisattvas. And so, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And so my question is there a different way of purifying what we have done compared to normal purification? Is there something different to do to purify all the bad thoughts or bad judgments or bad deeds we did on bodhisattvas?
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. That's a good question. Because it sounds like you'd be in real trouble with that verse. Where is that? Uh,
34.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think that purifying or antidoting negative actions would be the same, in that first there's some recognition of negative actions, which might be a big step for a lot of us. Just that recognition of negative actions, and some fear of the consequences that should arise based on our understanding of karma. If we don't believe in, or if we just have a superficial or cursory understanding of cause and effect, or kind of a naive understanding of cause and effect, then we might not have that might not provide the power that it would take to purify the karma, because we need to have this feeling of regret, remorse, understanding what the outcomes of negative actions will be if they're not antidoted. And then applying the antidote, which generally, in a general way, it's the opposite. So if you can say, particularly if you have a negative thoughts towards a bodhisattva, then realizing that that is some seed of suffering that's been implanted in your stream of being, and you want to antidote it, then, and feel remorse about that, then by contemplating or thinking of or pondering the qualities of either that bodhisattva or bodhisattvas in general, and you're pondering the qualities as a way of purifying it, then it will interdependently act to antidote that imprint, to uproot it. And we'll talk more about this whole, before I spend too much time, because this next chapter is all about that. So, but yeah, it's, I think the big thing in confessing or purifying karma is, or yeah, purifying actions, negative actions, is to contemplate karma as much as we can. That will provide the kind of raw materials that it will take to set aside our negative habits. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then. So then, we'll begin with the opening prayers. I pay homage with my body, speech, and mind, filled with devotion to all Buddhas without exception, those lying like heroes of the past, present, and future, who dwell in all worlds throughout the universe. With the power of these aspirations for excellent conduct, I bow before all victorious ones as they manifest to my mind, prostrating with as many bodies as there are atoms in the universe. I envision that there are countless Buddhas abiding on every atom in the universe, each surrounded by hosts of bodhisattvas, completely pervading the basic space of phenomena. With never-ending praises sung to an ocean of melodies, I extol the perfect qualities of all victorious ones who have arrived at a state of bliss. I offer to all these victorious ones sublime flowers, garlands, music, and balms, beautiful parasols, brilliant lamps, the purest incense, the finest clothes and loveliest fragrances, vessels filled with sweet-scented powders piled as high as the king of mountains, the finest, most exalted array of all excellent things. I offer these as well to all the Buddhas. With the power of my faith in excellent conduct and my devotion to the Buddhas, I pay homage and present them with vast, unsurpassable offerings. I confess each and every negative action of my body, speech, and mind that I have committed under the influence of desire, anger, and ignorance. I rejoice in the meritorious deeds of Buddhas throughout all directions, as well as bodhisattvas, pratyeka Buddhas, arhats beyond training, those still in training, and all beings. I request that those lamps of the world, the protectors who, free of attachment, have attained the enlightened state of Buddhahood, turn the wheel of the unsurpassable Dharma. I join my hands and beseech those who may wish to pass beyond all suffering, to remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the universe, in order to bring benefit and happiness to all beings. I dedicate whatever virtue I have accumulated through prostrating, offering, and confessing, through rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating, however slight this virtue may be, to the enlightenment of all. The earth is perfumed with scented water, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, and the sun and moon. By my imagining and offering these as a Buddha realm, may all beings come to enjoy the pure realms. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. To fulfill the needs of all beings at their various levels of understanding, we request that you turn the wheel of Dharma, including the lesser and greater, common and extraordinary approaches. Okay, so then we all should generate this proper attitude in listening to the teachings, and in my case, in speaking, and that attitude that we should all have is the attitude of bodhicitta, thinking that I will liberate all beings from suffering and establish them in a state of total and perfect enlightenment. And I will, in order to do that, I am listening to the teachings on the conduct of the Bodhisattva, and that I will think about these teachings and apply them as best as I can in order to accomplish that intention, that pledge to liberate all beings. So take a moment to establish that intention and then try to refresh that throughout the teachings. So we are going through the text of the Bodhicharyāvatāra of Shantidevas, and the 10 chapters have been, many commentaries have been composed on this work of Shantidevas, and particularly we're following the tradition of how Patrul Rinpoche structured his commentaries on it. That is to say that using the verses of Supreme Bodhicitta is so very precious, where it has not yet arisen, may it arise, where it has arisen, may it not decline, but evermore grow and flourish. These verses are sort of the index, or what Patrul Rinpoche used as the basis for his commentary, so that the first 3 chapters are concerned with giving rise to bodhicitta where it hasn't arisen yet. And the second 3 chapters have to do with when it has arisen, preventing it from declining. And then the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters are concerned with bringing that bodhicitta to fruition as a wisdom, causing it to flourish. And so we finished the first chapter, which is important because it's the chapter that shows us how to think of bodhicitta in such a way that we will take an interest in it, that we will, it will be our sort of go-to response to circumstances, to challenges and so forth. And the more we read and contemplate this first chapter, the more sort of embedded bodhicitta will be in our mind streams as something that is truly worthy of developing and giving rise to. Up to now, most of our effort and most of our habits have to do with our own happiness. And now with the bodhicitta, the emphasis shifts towards how can I make others happy? Not just a few others, like our family or our friends or our group, but all beings without any exception, without any bias whatsoever. That all beings are worthy of my efforts to bring them to a state of temporary happiness and liberation from samsara and beyond to omniscience, This is what we want, and this is what we want for all beings: happiness, liberation, and omniscience. How wonderful it would be if all beings became established in those, and I will do my best part, I will do my part in fulfilling that promise to do that. And so this kind of goes against this is not our habit. Putting all others first. That attitude, that approach is new, or it's not. We're not used to it, and so in the beginning, then that's why in this first chapter, the benefits of bodhicitta are explained, so that we will continue to be inspired, continue to be interested in it, and get used to resolving our situation by remembering, oh, bodhicitta, that's the answer here. And so we should reflect again and again and again on how extremely precious and noble this thought is. It is a thought. And then we should also, along with that, reflect on how does it arise? How can I give rise to it initially, how can I give rise to it, and how can I give rise to it in as genuine a way as I can. And so on the second chapter, then, it's called confession here in the English, but it the idea in the second and the third chapter, these two chapters kind of go together. Because these two chapters deal with the way that bodhicitta, which has not yet arisen, arises. And as Nagarjuna taught, that bodhicitta can only arise, or let's first say that bodhicitta arises based on causes and conditions. Like everything else, everything arises through causes and conditions. And so Nagarjuna taught how bodhicitta arises, the cause of bodhicitta arising is merit. And the conditions for it to arise is taking the vow in the presence of a spiritual friend. So merit and relying on a spiritual friend are the causes and conditions to give rise to bodhicitta. And Asanga taught how, in a similar way, but he said that a bodhicitta arises in a mind that's clear and pure. And so the way to purify our mind, to clarify our mind, and to bring forth the merit that is the cause for bodhicitta to arise is through the practices that are laid out in these two chapters. And they are what are called the seven, sometimes they're called the seven branches of practice. The seven branches of prayer, seven branches of practice, sometimes the 8, or even sometimes the 10 branches of practice. And here, as we can see, is it begins with the offerings. The actual confession part is later in this chapter. The first part is the practice of generosity. And he says, to the Buddhas, those thus gone into the sacred Dharma, spotless and supremely rare, and to the Buddha's offspring, oceans of good qualities, that I might gain this precious attitude, I make a perfect offering. So, okay, then, so we'll take this apart again. Like in the first chapter, then also it starts out with something of Buddha here. To those gone in bliss, the Sugata, I talked about, we discussed what that term means. Here, he's using the term, not gone to bliss, but those thus gone, which means Tathagata. So maybe you've seen this as a very common epithet of a Buddha, Tathagata. Again, a Sugata means gone or goes in bliss in Sanskrit. Gata means go or arrived or gone. But the first word is different. The Sugata. Here it's Tathagata. Tata means basically Tathagata means one who is one who is gone in accord with the nature of things. One who goes, or basically one who has realized the natural state, just as it is in actuality. And so it says to the Buddhas, which means that then he's making this offering to the Buddhas and then to the sacred Dharma. And of course, the Dharma refers here to the Dharma of, like if we think of the Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings of the Four Noble Truths, really the third and the fourth truth have to do with the Dharma. The Dharma is the cessation, the truth of cessation, and the truth of the path. Like the truth of cessation is freedom. The truth of the path is becoming free. And those two together are what's called the sacred Dharma. Sacred Dharma. Dharma means a phenomena, means a thing. But here, qualifying the thing with a word like sacred and also spotless, supremely rare, indicates a dharma, a thing that frees one from the causes of suffering, from the effects and the causes of suffering, and the path that leads to that. So it's both the cessation and the path. then the Buddha's offspring, and to the Buddha's offspring, oceans of good qualities. So this refers, the Shantideva here is using this to convey the idea of the Mahayana Sangha, the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, the offspring of the Buddhas. It's likened to the like a king. A king can have many wise counselors, but it's only the offspring of the king that will become the king. And so the same with the Buddha, the bodhisattvas are those who will become Buddha. Even you think, even say someone who's very learned in the Dharma, great scholars and great meditators and so forth, but it's only the one who's the bodhisattva who is developing the bodhicitta that will actually be the heir of enlightenment, will become a Buddha. And just like the heir of a king becomes inherits the power over the treasury, the money of the kingdom. And similarly, the bodhisattva inherits the dharma of the Buddha. And like the prince becoming a king then perpetuates the lineage, the family lineage. Similarly, a bodhisattva perpetuates the lineage of awakening that the Buddha has left. And then also then the bodhisattva, just like the prince, when the king passes on, inherits the kingdom, then also then the bodhisattva attains a perfect wisdom. So just in this metaphorical way, it says, to the Buddha's offspring, oceans of good qualities. And so that I might gain this precious attitude, I make a perfect offering, he says. So a perfect offering is one that has three qualities, or three kinds of purities. A pure object, to a pure recipient, which here is the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Bodhisattva Sangha, the three jewels. And a pure motivation. Here his motivation is that I might gain this precious attitude. That is to say, in order for bodhicitta to give rise in my mind stream, I make these offerings. I make a perfect offering. So his motivation is pure, the motivation of a offering is pure if it's free of, like pure motivation is making an offering or practicing generosity without any, what is it called? Without being pretentious. Pretentious? Free of pretentiousness. Is that okay? Then that, and also free of miserliness, very open-handed giving, and also free of some attitude where it's envy, like you give out of envy of someone who's giving. It's kind of giving with malevolence. If that makes sense. So these three, ostentatious or pretentious, miserliness, and malevolence. Like say, I've seen that used. So then free of those, and then with this yearning for bodhicitta and understanding the interdependent circumstances of causes and conditions to give rise to bodhicitta, then that's a perfect offering. And then with the perfect object of offerings, and then the pure motivation, not perfect objects, is pure objects, pure motivation, pure offerings, pure substances. Then there's substances. And our offering substances should be of a good quality, not moldy or discarded. If we, the purpose here is to gain merit, sort of a kind of a positive energy of merit, and so our offering substances should be of a good quality and also not obtained by any negative actions. The source of them should be good, quality, good, and then also particularly nicely arranged. And the commentary was a long discussion on the making offerings arranged nicely. Particularly, we have the discussion was on the how to arrange the offering bowls that are commonly used in front of the image of the enlightenment. That they should be, the bowls should be clean. They should be very carefully placed in a very good order, straight, and the same distance between each one. And the water that you pour into them shouldn't splash. All these kinds of advice on how to put up these offerings. Is there just, and flowers and so forth should be all not just jammed into a bottle, but arranged as nicely as you can. That's how you make offerings in that way. It was very well known, or it was a famous anecdote when Atisha, the great Bodhicitta master from India, went to Tibet, and they requested him to give a bodhisattva vow. And he said, I won't give it unless you make beautiful arrangements of offerings. And so they did. And he came and said, that's not good enough. And so then again, the second time, they made more offerings, more elaborate offerings. And again, he said, that's not good enough. He's from India. I don't know, maybe something, but Tibetans looking from an Indian, for Indians, Tibetans, I don't know what he was seeing exactly, but the offerings looked not enough. So the third time he came, they put it out as much as they could possibly get together. You know? And he said, well, this will do. So, and in one, I think in Gampopa's Jewel Ornament, he discusses there in giving the Bodhisattva vow should take 3 days. 2.5 days should be ones of making offerings. Something like that. So it's just a very, what do you say? It's a very pith instruction here on the bodhicitta, development of bodhicitta. Making offerings is a very easy way to create the positive energy, the merit that will that will enable bodhicitta to come in that mind, in our mind. Because I think the idea is that, as it says in the first chapter, the 3rd or so verse there, or the 5th or so verse, this noble thoughts don't come easy. So then, that I might gain this precious attitude, I make a pure offering. I make a perfect offering. And so the first, the second verse here, which is the second verse on through to the 7th verse, those 5 or 6 verses, are offerings of things, of substances that are not owned by anyone. The first verse here, with the commentary, as we just heard, has to do with things that we can put up, water, so forth, and flowers and whatnot. Here now he's saying, and these are offerings that are not owned by anyone. And so you can just recall them or bring them to mind. Picture them in your mind. And then also when you see these things, when you're on a hike or going past something that's along these lines, you can learn to make offerings of them to the 3 jewels with this motivation for bodhicitta to arise. I offer every fruit and flower, every kind of healing draft. So like grains and spices and these juicy roots and things like that. All precious gems the world contains, with all pure waters of refreshment, all the creeks and rivers and the beautiful lakes and so forth. And then this water, even though water is a problem with a population such as it is and so forth. But when you think of water as an offering, then there's what's called the water of 8 qualities. It's pure, cool, clear, tasty, soft, and it's easy on your throat, and it's easy on your stomach, and it's light. These are what are called the water of 8 qualities. Sometimes you see in texts and so forth. So just imagine that. Every mountain wrought of precious jewels, all sweet and lonely forest groves, the trees of paradise adorned with blossom, trees with branches bowed with perfect fruit. Bowed or bowed? Bowed, I guess. Like grapes, yeah, like think of grapes and in the fall, like orchard apples and peaches and plums, purple plums and green and red apples, all these kind of things and like that. the perfume fragrance of divine and other realms, all incense, wishing trees, trees of gems, all the like sandalwood and aloe and all these trees that have a scent and so forth, all crops that grow without the tiller's care. In other words, naturally occurring, natural things like, I don't know, like wild rice and just the food that grows in the wild that's without anybody digging the earth and cutting the ground and so forth. Just crops without that having happened. And every sumptuous object worthy to be offered. So just everything. And lakes and mirrors adorned with lotuses. Mirrors, I don't know, I had to look that up. Mirrors is a body of water. It's like a lake. It's a lake, a pool, a mirror. It's English. Anyway, make lakes and mirrors adorned with lotuses, delightful with the sweet voiced cries of water birds, and everything unclaimed and free. Even things they don't have names. Things, they're untainted by even being known. These kinds of things. And they're infinite in scope. They have these two features. They're infinite, because they're just thinking of them. They're infinite in scope, and they're untainted by having anybody own them. Things of the natural world. Here, everything unclaimed and free means it's not owned. And then extending to the margins of the boundless sky means it's infinite. So these two qualities, infinite in scope and untainted by ownership. And then I hold them all before my mind, and to the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, and to his heirs I make a perfect offering. And so here it says, I hold them all before my mind, means that you think of these things as if, and you own them. You think of them as if you own them. And then you offer them. There's that little twist in there. It's one of these, it's the third quality or the third feature of offering unowned things, is to, when you see it or picture it or recollect it, then own it, and then give it without regret. And then the fourth is this perfect recipient and a perfect intention. Here, I offer them to the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, and to his heirs I make a perfect offering. The object, this a perfect recipient, is here, he's called the mighty sage. Sage here, the word is in Sanskrit is a muni. Muni, M-U-N-I, like Shakyamuni. Muni means a sage. The word itself carries the meaning of capable, a capable one. Also, like the Buddha, this word muni, for a Buddha is capable and potent, but also, what do they say, that the Buddha is not on guard, is not guarded with his actions. He's completely free of hope and fear. So whatever he says is perfect. Whatever he does is perfect. So he's very unguarded. If you can imagine, like we're always there's always some subtle or gross strategy in our actions. So Buddha is just unguarded. That's what the word Muni conveys, that idea. So then I hold them all before my mind unto the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, means human, actually. It means he's the greatest human. And to his heirs, again, the bodhisattvas, then I make a perfect offering. A perfect offering meaning with faith in the Muni, with faith in the recipient, faith in the three jewels, and beyond the three spheres. I mean, a perfect offering would be offering beyond the three spheres. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but beyond the three spheres means seeing the selfless, the beyond the actor, the action, and the recipient of the action, beyond the self-identity, beyond recognizing the lack of identitylessness in the giver, the action of giving, and the recipient. Buddha has no ego. He realized it. So then for us then to go beyond this ego and then beyond this. So faith and devotion and that act of giving, it not only creates merit, positive energy in our mind stream, but it also purifies the kleshas, the afflictive mental states. One of them is attachment, and another is hatred, and another is ignorance, stupidity, and then all the branches that come from these three central poisons of the mind. And so the more we learn how to give in this way, then the more those poisons are purified, and bodhicitta begins to find a home in that kind of an inner mental atmosphere. When we, like there's the, in the Mahayana view, then it says all sentient beings have this Buddha nature. All sentient beings have what's called Tathagata Garbha. Garbha means essence. Our potential. All sentient beings have this potential. Then it's obscured by two main veils. One main is the kleshas, which is a term, Sanskrit term that means what we generally, not generally, but we translate it as afflictions, mental afflictions. Sometimes people say emotional afflictions, but kind of mental afflictions includes emotional afflictions and then other kinds of kleshas also. And then that's one obscuration, is the klesha obscuration. And then the other obscuration is an obscuration that's called the cognitive obscuration. Cognitive means we're obscured from the knowable. What's knowable is obscured. We don't know what is knowable because of the obscuration to it. So there's these two main obscurations. And there's other obscurations also, like karma obscurations and habitual tendencies. And so sometimes you see 4 obscurations, sometimes 2 obscurations. On the Bodhisattva path, these kleshas are worn away and purified away, refined away, and then this obscuration to the knowable is purified. That's the last thread that is purified before enlightenment. So by training your mind in generosity, making offerings like this, offering things that you own, like material things that you own, that lessens our attachment to the subjective one. And that lessening attachment by giving our possessions away purifies or reduces this kleshas, the klesha obscuration. And when we practice generosity with giving what's unowned, then that lessens our attachment to objects. So giving what we own lessens our attachment to our subjective experience, which is the home of the kleshas. And giving what's unowned reduces our attachment to objects, to phenomena. And that antidotes, that cognitive obscuration. This also relates, if you're interested, this also relates to what are called the 2 aspects of non-self, which is the non-self of the individual and the non-self of phenomena, which that's one of the distinctions between the Hinayana and the Mahayana, that in the Hinayana there is the realization of the non-self of the individual, but not of the phenomena. And in the Mahayana, there's the realization of the non-self of the individual and the non-self of phenomena, the identitylessness of self and the identitylessness of phenomena. Anyway, that's a little doctrinal language, but the idea of giving is the easiest and best way to antidote the kleshas and the cognitive obscurations, these 2 obscurations. To completely uproot these obscurations, then that only occurs through wisdom, non-conceptual wisdom. That's what will thoroughly uproot this subject-object clinging. But in order to approach that through merit and other factors, then we need to lessen our subject and object attachment. And sublime recipients, compassionate lords, again, the three jewels, the Buddhas and so forth. Oh, think of me with love, accept these gifts of mine. So then, if those gifts are accepted, if you accept those gifts, then the results will be great. Because, like we talked about earlier, the idea in karma, there's different factors that make up a complete act that will give the complete effect of that act. The intention, the determination, the performance of the act itself, and then the success of that act, and then how you feel afterwards. Either rejoice or regret, depending on the action. All these things determine the outcome. So in order for an act of generosity to yield the completed act, the completed result, it has to be accepted. And so you should think or visualize or think that when you make offerings, whether they are real or imaginary offerings, we need to also think that they are being accepted by the Buddhas. It says, oh, think of me with love. Like out of your love and compassion, accept these. So that karmic loop is complete. And then the results will be very great. Okay. That's the idea there. So then in the 7th verse, Shantideva is self-referencing here. He says, for destitute of merit, I am very poor. I have no other wealth. So he's sort of maybe confessing or saying that, well, in the past, I wasn't generous. I didn't gather the merit in my past lives to be able to provide, to be able to practice vast generosity. I'm poor. He's just a monk, basically. So he says, I'm very poor. I have no other wealth. All I can do is imagine giving. And so he says, protectors, you whose wise intentions are for others' good and your great power, receive them for my sake. Protectors. So he's calling these, he's saying the protectors, so the Buddhas, they're protectors. How do they protect? How do the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, how do they protect? They protect by giving the Dharma. Protect means to protect from the suffering of samsara, protect from suffering. If Buddhas are all powerful, all omniscient, omnipotent, and so forth. But if they were able to, you'd think at least they would be able to just immediately just take us out of samsara altogether. Forget about just getting over a bad sickness or losing your job or whatever, but they should, if they have that, if Buddhas are what they are, reputation have is powerful and so forth, then they should be able to just hook us and pull us right out of samsara. But that requires the individual is the one who has to liberate themselves. The Buddhas only can protect us, only can give the means. We're the ones, those who are left are the ones who have to free ourselves, because it's our own mind that's afflicted. And we afflict it. We're the afflictors of our own mind. And we are the reformers and the refiners and the purifiers of our own mind. And so like it says, Chopalame Dam Churjamboche in our offering prayer, is the unsurpassable protection is the sacred Dharma, a protection from suffering. Basic Dharma, Dharma means virtue. It's almost another word for Dharma means virtue. If you don't want to suffer in the future, then practice virtue with whatever lands in your lap in this life or in the present. Don't practice non-virtue when non-virtue ripens to you. And for that, we need to remember what to do, what Dharma, how to do that. So you whose wise intentions are for others' good, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their only wish is for beings to accumulate merit and purify their minds, and thereby shortening their time span in samsara. That's all they wish for. Again, for beings to be happy, for beings to be liberated, and for beings to achieve omniscience. So you whose wise intentions are for others' good, and your great power, receive them for my sake. Then my merit will become perfected, fulfilled, and defilements, all my obscurations and defilements will become purified. So in your great power, meaning through the power of your compassion, receive these offerings for my sake. Then the 8th verse, enlightened ones and all your okay, now 8, so that was that section there, that up to the end of the 7th verse has to do with mental offerings, that is to say, offerings of things that are not owned by anyone. And then the next 2 verses, I think 2 verses, have to do with offering your body. Enlightened ones and all your bodhisattva heirs, I offer you my body throughout all my lives. That is to say, I offer my body in all my future lives. Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally. Body, speech, and mind totally means accept my offering of my body, my offering of my speech, my offering of my mind. For with devotion, let's see, Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally. For with devotion, I will be your slave. Okay, then we should say more like, I pledge, I promise to be your, the one that will fulfill all of your intentions. I'll be your subject. It says how, okay, then the ninth, next chapter, the next verse, for if you will accept me, if you will accept me, I will be undaunted by samsara and will act for being's sake. So if you will accept my offering of my body, speech, and mind, then through that offering and through your wisdom and compassion, I will be able to not come under the power of the sufferings of samsara, that I will be able through your blessings and through my offering of my body, speech, and mind to you, then I will be able to benefit beings. If it's by offering our body, speech, and mind to the Buddha that we really can promise to benefit beings, to act for being's sake. Even though, that is to say, we're unenlightened. You know, even though we are just unenlightened kind of beings, that by offering our body, speech, and mind to the three jewels, then even though we are still just unenlightened, we can act for the benefit of beings. I'll leave behind the evils of my past. It's by this kind of offering, then all my negativity of the past will be purified. It says in one text how offering your body is the how to protect you from previous. It's the best means to protect you from very evil actions in the past. Protect meaning protect you from the results of very negative actions. I'll leave behind the evils of my past. And we need to do that because the ripening of negative actions from the past will get buried in them, and the effects of those actions, and they'll prevent us from accomplishing our own benefit and the benefit of others. Our aspiration, bodhicitta, is not so stable and strong and well-rooted. And so the fruition of past, out of memory, negative actions will consume us, and we'll give up our bodhicitta because of the suffering of our resulting from past negative actions, that our suffering will be greater than our aspiration bodhicitta. So by mentally giving your body, speech, and mind to the three jewels, then you uproot those negative actions and you become separated from them so that they will not upend they will not bury you in samsara. I'll leave behind the evils of my past and ever after turn my face from them. So then he's making this last sentence is like a resolution. So this is all interdependently hangs together. Okay, so those two verses have to do with offering of the body. Let's see, 7, 8, 20. Any questions?
Somebody,
Lama, sorry.
this is John.
Yes, I did have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Lama Pema. It's John Kavanagh out in
Hi, John.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. When we're talking about the offerings, and when you're talking about the offerings of things not owned, the rivers, the lakes, the nature, say, that to me makes perfect sense with with emptiness. Where I get, what I don't understand is when we're talking about the particularities of the shrine and the nuances of that, how that goes along with emptiness. It seems like we're almost more focused on the ritual than the intent when we're talking about just the perfectness of the shrine and the ceremony of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how that can be reconciled, because one seems to be, you're imagining owning a river, and in another case you seem to be focused on very formalistic ritual. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, I think it makes sense.
It seems like form over substance in that regard. Whereas otherwise, when we're talking about the intent of the generosity, the intent seems to be the most important part. And it seems like when we're talking about the ceremony of particular things, we're getting, for me, it seems to bog me down a bit with the intent's not as important as making sure things are lined up just so. And I'm just trying to reconcile that, I guess.
Well, there's only, first of all, there's only one emptiness. There's not emptiness, different emptinesses for imagined offerings and different emptinesses for material offering. There's only one emptiness. So, and it's very subtle. So it's not as if it should just immediately click in, emptiness it is. I think that these putting up offering bowls and then carrying out other ritualistic practices that involve making offerings are also, it's also possible to, as you are doing those things, to see them as not other than your own mind.
Okay, all right. I think it's more me.
Well, it's
just
again,
yeah, I mean, obviously, right, but
no, well, look, what
yeah.
you're saying is that's a real practice question, and that's what it's not you, it's everyone, me and everyone. But by using rituals like this with outer objects, they become almost triggers to our inner spaciousness, you know, the lavishness that we can apply, just like when we're offering water and washing water and drinking water. If we understand, if we know now that you have those 8 qualities, then you think of those. And there's water is all interdependently connected. You pour water, and it's everywhere. Water's everywhere. It's in the air. It's in the oceans. You know, we're 90-some% water. You know, so there's really no distinction there, and it's all H2O. You know, you're offering water, and the ocean water is H2O, I think. Anyway, right? No scientists in the room? And so, like, H2O is what? It's H, like what? It's particles. It's atoms. And the atoms are what? Made up of other parts, and each one of those. So everything is emptiness. Whether you're imagining like the South Pacific waves lapping up on the shore of an imaginary deserted island, or whether you're pouring them into a offering bowl, it's still empty of any identity.
Yep.
And there's also cultivated during that the meditative quality of mindfulness, you know, which is important to cultivate. And in our, you know, kind of, I don't know if it's Vajrayana, but in Mahayana Buddhism, putting flowers and arrangements and all these things are part of practicing mindfulness with mindfulness in a created atmosphere that also creates merit, positive energy. You know? So there's dual purposes or triple purposes, threefold, tenfold purposes going on there. You know, you're developing a relationship with the object. I mean, you're offering bowls filled with water to a statue. You know, but that's not, we can get over that very easily by understanding, well, what does that statue, what's the message that statue is either sending me, or what is the message that I get from seeing that statue of the Buddha, of enlightenment? And also offering like flowers, incense, lamps, like we offer flowers to the Buddhas. So if we imagine the Buddhas, and we'll get like in our prayer we do in the beginning, that prayer. So it's there. The idea is that you have a statue, and then you have these glass or metal bowls, but what's going on in your mind is that the entire space is a region of your whole inner space, and outer space breaks down, and everything is Buddhas everywhere on every atom. And your body reiterates equally in front of every one of those Buddhas that's surrounded by countless bodhisattvas. And every one of your bodies is imagining offerings of flowers, incense, lamps, perfume, and they're things that we relate to because they are what we our senses. Like we offer flowers to the eyes of the Buddha for the sake of gaining the wisdom eye, to be able to see all sentient beings with unbiased compassion. We offer flowers to the vision of the Buddha, the eyes of the Buddha. We offer incense. It's the scent of the incense to the nose of the Buddha, and with the aspiration that all beings who are suffering because of their negative actions, that they will discover the value of virtue and practice discipline. The discipline of giving up negative actions, the discipline of practicing virtue, the discipline of benefiting beings. Incense has to do with virtue. It's a virtuous people have a good smell. Sometimes some great masters in Tibet, even the village smells like the practitioner up on the whole place is permeated by his virtue. And so forth. So each one of these offerings has to do with things that are like a aloke. It was a aloke. It's a lamp we offer to the mind of the Buddha, with the aspiration that all beings will be attain the omniscience and their minds will be illuminated by wisdom. Again, and scented water or perfume rub on has to do with the tactile sensations, and okay. Again, the naivedya, offering of food, has to do with the taste, to the mouth, the tongue of the Buddha, the taste. May all beings accomplish what's called the taste of samadhi. May all beings attain perfect meditative stability. And then sound. And you can think all your favorite, there's so much music and things, sound we have, whoever you like, then think them, they're playing, making offerings, whoever it is, Run DMC or Montavani or Pink Floyd or whoever it might be, then that's what you love, that's what makes you happy, then that's what you want to make an offering of that. So each one of those things becomes sort of buttons or keys or triggers for your mental offering. If we don't have some kind of rite, some kind of ritual as beginners, our tendency will be to kind of get sloppy and let things fall away, because there's no, our other rituals will take over, like lingering, or other rituals that we're kind of addicted to, watching screen and talking and all these things, that we can that we expand, because it's our habit. So if we have, okay, I'm going to do this at the outset, or at a certain point in the day, then that's my anchor. That's my relationship with what is only wholesome. It's only wholesome, and we don't get to do that in a formal way so often. We're always kind of reacting and trying to remember what to do, trying to remember how to respond in the best way, or sometimes we don't even try. It's the results of our actions create a circumstance where we just feel the pain of it and then fight the whole way. We're not really training in bodhicitta. So it's just learning to convert simple acts and infusing those simple acts with this thought of bodhicitta. By this pure water offering to the pure three jewels, may I accomplish bodhicitta, and may all beings be brought to a state of happiness, liberation, and omniscience. So, this is a thing, I think, when we feel as though, oh, this is just like a ritual, or how do I say? I'm not connecting with this thing, and this is just everybody. It's not you, this is me, everybody. Like, oh, I'm just really not connecting with this. How do we respond to that? Disconnect, It's what the response would be like, why am I disconnected? How can I reconnect? I'll bet it's bodhicitta. I'll bet I'm not engaging my bodhicitta. I'm trying to figure the mechanics out, or I'm struggling with something that I'm not used to. And I'm not really interested in bowls of water, and I don't get it, So the react, instead of just walking away from it, or this is cultural, or this is I'm just going to meditate on emptiness, or I'm just going to try and be a good person, these kind of thoughts, and then we separate from the source of our virtue. So to recognize that, but not to kind of change how we relate to being disconnected, and see, well, what's the purpose of Dharma? What is really the essential ingredient that underlies all of life? And that's a bodhicitta. So you should, when we do disconnect, or we get kind of lazy in how we practice, and we could look very good, even we could have really good posture and practicing even, breathing, meditation, or doing mantras and everything, but nothing's happening necessarily. But when we recognize that, first thing is we should rejoice that we recognize that you're a complete phony. I'm just pretending I'm practicing, I'm not. That's good to know that. Then what? Okay, well, what do I need to do to continue in in a good way. I need to, I should use this. Maybe I can't see the profundity of what I'm doing, whether it's just pouring water or, meditating on some, really elaborate mandala practice, generation stage practice or something, or rather than trying to examine the whole structure part of it, like, well, what are the essential ingredients? And then just practice. You don't have to change what your sort of karmically connected practice is, but practice renunciation when you're doing it. Meditate on the suffering of samsara when you're doing it. Meditate on impermanence. Meditate on cause and effect. Meditate on compassion and bodhicitta. All these things that, when they become knitted together, create the ground for wisdom. So all practitioners struggle with disconnecting, hovering is another one. Hovering, like you're practicing, but somehow there's like only 1% or 5% maybe you're actually connecting. The other 90% is waiting to actually begin practice. And then it's over. Your time, the bell rings and you're over, and you've been waiting to practice the whole time. And those are classic, those are in, the Satipatthana Sutras, the old sutras, talks about that. What does laziness really mean? It's a form of laziness, not like sloth. That's one form of laziness, but real laziness means that you're, first of all, that you're too busy. And second of all, that you're not connecting with the practice. So here, maybe then you read the first chapter and develop an interest in bodhicitta, so that in a case like that, when you're actually engaged in some sort of a practice, formal practice, that you will be able to antidote on the spot or more readily that kind of disconnect. Because what's disconnecting means that there's no bodhicitta. And so we could think of all kinds of things, excuses and things like that, and feel bad and so forth, rather than just, oh, bodhicitta, that's what's missing. So, and this is everybody's. This is my problem. It's everybody's problem. It's a, or not a problem, but these are what make up the path. That's why in English we call it practicing. Practicing means trying, making a mistake, like swinging a bat and then missing and then seeing, and again, it means practicing. It means making mistakes. If we think we're doing things perfectly in our practice, then we're not practicing. We're like Buddha. And then we have to ask, are we a Buddha already? Probably not. So that's why I say, when you realize you made a mistake, then be happy. Rejoice. Oh, I have perspective. I've developed the perspective to see that I am not connecting, or that I don't understand this practice. And then remedy it. Call to mind what would remedy it. Could even be, fear of death. Fear of death and a little faith in the Dharma. put those two together, and that's a valid motivation.
Hmm.
It's like Milarepa. They said, oh, how could you endure all this stuff, running around or sitting, on glaciers, it's icy cold rocks and things like that. He says, oh, fear of death. That's it. Just I came here because I was afraid of dying. He did a lot of bad things. But yeah, so always, even if you spend your time in a practice looking into what it is you need to do to remedy some flaw in your practice, then that's practice. But just giving up, standing up and walking away because I'm not that kind of a person or something, then that won't get you won't get far. That can be a habit. No matter whatever discipline you go to, this group, that you wander around, and you're going to have that habit. And the habit is just not knowing how to break through certain obstacles to practice. There's another question.
Thank you, Lama.
Somebody else had a question?
This was Mark. I was just piping up because John had put this question in chat, but then he started talking. So
Oh, okay.
Lama Pema, I had a question relating. I'm sitting here trying to remember that quote from Guru Rinpoche about my view is as vast as the sky. My attention to detail is as fine as a grain of sand or something.
Uh-huh.
What can you?
Flower, yeah.
Can you actually give the actual quote? Because I'm sure that's not it.
Well, that's all. Well, he said that my view is as vast as space, as the sky, but my actions are, well, he said, make your view as vast as the sky and make your actions as fine as flour. I mean, flour, ground flour.
Does that relate to to John's original question? Or am I?
It didn't come to mind at the time, but it's kind of a profound quote. In other words, for a person, like the more realization they have of the profundity of emptiness, then the more, how do I say, the more cautious or the more fussy they are about their actions. People think that when you realize emptiness, then, like I said, like a Buddha, he's unguarded, then, anything goes. But that's not that's not the case for the Bodhisattva path. You have to be very, very picky. It's like some great, masters, they're almost like OCD thinking, or OC anyway. They care about everything. Some are very carefree, but for practitioners like us, then we always have to pay attention to karma while developing this great vast view. So it says, if you have this view, which is very profound, but if you have this view, then don't lose it to your actions. and don't make your actions so that you, the view, so that you don't lose your actions to the view. Combine these two. This is all a little bit too high now, I think. Yes.
Well, I have a question. I really appreciate how this.
Can't hear. No, no, you're still on mute.
Sorry, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry.
Uh-oh. I'm not getting it. Something.
One more time. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Is that clear now?
Yes, when it's good, it's very good. When
Okay.
it's not, it's very bad.
It should stay good now. There's a lot of detail, and I like how you can go very deep into all of these sections. I'm wondering how a person, a practitioner, kind of, I'm not just starting, but I'm like, what's a good way to practice generosity in my life, like in these different levels? I don't know, or maybe a simple way to get started. Maybe I appreciate the different ways to think about it, but what's a good way to move forward and start?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, one way is through like what John was talking about with the bowls. At least that's usually one way. But like this text, keeping it within the kind of the boundaries of what we are studying, or what, as long as we're studying this, each section of this, some of it is very like about advice on how to act, conduct. Some advice is on a meditation. Some advice is on how to train in the wisdom. And then like in the first chapter is how to become interested. The second and third chapters is actually very commonly used as a ritual itself. It's read in a group. It's chanted or what have you, and it's the people like this, both of these chapters, because this is basically the 7-branch prayer.
Okay.
First is the offering branch, and then there's the confession. That's all there up to the dedication, homage, offerings, confession, rejoicing, supplicating the Buddhas to turn the wheel of the Dharma, requesting them not to pass into nirvana, and dedicating the merit. And then also in the chapter, he's also inserted refuge to make 8th. And then it culminates in the taking of the Bodhisattva vow, both the aspiration vow and the engaging vow. So you could say that there's 10 practices in these 2 chapters. So you don't necessarily have to go too far afield here, because this will really kind of begin to kind of open your mind up by reading this. It's very good to read it regularly.
Okay.
When I first, not talk about myself, but when I first was taking on this text some years ago, I would read it every night, the 2nd and 3rd chapter. I read it at night before I went to bed. Then I tried to read it as soon as I woke up. I would again recite it. It made a big difference in my sleeping and dreaming and life. So
Great. That's great.
Yeah. Then we'll be going over again verse by verse. So why not? It's made as a practice. So Thank you. Yeah,
All right,
for
thank you. Sounds like a good place to start.
that. Yes. Yeah. You can't go wrong. Okay. Well, I think we'll have to end. So we'll do the closing prayers, dedicating the merit and aspirations. All the virtue of this practice and all that is gathered throughout the 3 times, I dedicate to all beings without exception, so that they may attain Buddhahood. Following and emulating the omniscient and courageous Manjushri, and likewise Samantha Bhadra, I completely dedicate all virtue. Since dedicating merit is praised as supreme by victorious ones of the 3 times, I completely dedicate these roots of virtue for the sake of practicing excellent conduct. May the teachings of Lord Buddha, the only source of benefit and happiness, long remain in this world. May the lives of those who uphold these teachings be as stable as a victory banner. Supreme bodhicitta is so very precious. Where it has not yet arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but evermore grow and flourish. Okay. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Lama Padma.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Tashi Deleg.
Thank you,
Thank
Lama.
you, Lama Padma.